Okay, so guys, welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Scull versus Shishkin fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Scull is 22-0 with 9 KOs and Shishkin is 16-0 with 10 KOs. This fight is for the IBF World Super Middleweight title. Skull's thus far was a win via unanimous decision versus Hemphill, and Shishkin's thus far was a win via TKO in round 7 versus a guy. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, obviously this for the IBF title which Scull has, I think it actually might be vacant. My apologies, it's probably the vacant title, but I know that Scull was the main kind of mandatory challenger for it, and he basically forced Canelo out of the belt because, on paper, realistically, Scull isn't a big name yet, and I respect what Aegon Sports have done. They've kind of forced Canelo's hand and forced Scull's name into the mix kind of out of nowhere, to be completely honest. I mean, a lot of people didn't really kind of know too much about William Scull and didn't really know that he was in the position in which he was in which he's in, to have been able to state a claim for a world title fight. But, he's worked hard to be in, like I say, this position he's in, and perhaps the matchmaking has been nice to him in the past, and he's been able to get a few wins in which helped elevate his ranking without fighting some of the top guys. But he has had a fair few, decent fights, decent names on his resume, and he hasn't been fighting kind of nobodies, and perhaps the resume is better than that of Shishkin's. And obviously, like I say, he's made Canelo vacate this belt, so realistically, if he is to win this one, William Scull, or if Shishkin's able to win this one, whoever wins this one, you kind of have to think that there are any realistically big title fights on the horizon to go alongside. This is probably the biggest sporting event in which Aegon Sports have put on. They've got it in their home country, which is Germany, and like I say, it probably is the biggest event in which they have put on. And if they are able to keep someone like a William Scull doing really well, they have other fighters like the likes of Aliha, who has fought for an IBO belt and has kind of stated a claim for fighting Chris Eubank Jr. in the past, and so he has got a relatively creditable name as well. If they have them two fighters in which they can push forwards, then they are two high-level fighters in which can perhaps fight around some of the best. But like I say, if the winner of this gets through this, you kind of have to think of, I don't think the winner of this would go on to fight a Canelo. I think perhaps if they were to defend their title against some of the top contenders, then they can state a claim for them to go on to fight Canelo. But I just don't necessarily think they'll go straight into it. Of course, you kind of have to think Canelo hasn't got a tremendous amount of options of who he can fight at the moment. I mean, it seems like the ship's kind of sailed on Benavidez. That seems like he's going to be fighting Morel in December time, and then Bivol Beterbiev's going to probably be a rematch now. So the rematch for Bivol probably isn't there for Canelo, and then you think other fighters like Mbili perhaps is an option, Pacheco is an option, but perhaps they aren't quite at the level in which they're quite ready to face something like a Canelo yet. But it does kind of leave the door open to see who Canelo could fight next. So you never know, he could want to go for all his belts back and fight the winner of this, possibly. Or, like I say, I've just mentioned two names there, Mbili, Pacheco, Iglesias, who's really coming up and really looking like a threat right now and hasn't been signed to a top promotion yet, so perhaps could make for an Aegon Sports even bigger fight. Or something like Munguia, he's, I think, similarly going to be fighting again in December against another kind of fringe world rank contender. I can't remember the name. But that's still an option. But then, like I say, there are available options in the super middleweight division, which is doing very well at the moment. And yeah, I think it's just, out of all these contenders, one of them has to really stake a claim for them to be the clear contender to next fight Canelo. And so that's what this fight is probably going to answer to an extent. How good actually is William Scull, as of course this is probably the first time in which he's been put on a bit of a larger platform and a bit of bit of eyes around him. But Shishkin, it's probably the same for him, to be completely honest. It's one of the major times in which he's been put on a big platform. I mean, he's fought on Showtime, he's been pushed by Salita Promotions a bit, so he has fought an interim champion in Uz Katagui, who beats Diril, and so there is a a bit of a name there, and he has fought a couple guys now, and he's coming off a couple impressive knockout victories, but he's not quite got that big name yet there either. So they're both kind of battling it out for their stake to claim to be deserving world champions. Of course, this is for a world title, but in the public's eye, I don't necessarily think that they believe that this is necessarily a world title fight. Like I say, amongst all the other contenders around, you wouldn't really put these two together to be like, wow, this is world title worthy. But like I say, it is taken a claim for them to then go on to fight one of the other top contenders. But to speak about them both individually as fighters, Scull as a fighter, I think he's got relatively good hand speed. He's got solid footwork. He's an accurate type fighter who does have solid counters as well, and typically wants to fight at a mid-range. And in general, he's probably a bit more of a defensive-minded fighter. I think both of these styles are going to gel for an entertaining fight. I think it's Shishkin with the more attacking, pressing, front foot type fighter compared to a Scull who perhaps is a bit more of a defensive, wants to move around a lot and doesn't necessarily want to plant his feet too much and is happy to just keep circling around. That type of fighter, and will go for the counters when and if he sees fit. And I think in general he can catch you out with his counters because he is so patient. As soon as he'll lead you onto the front foot, lead you on, and then suddenly plant his feet and then go for one kind of solid counter, and then it can catch you out. And I've seen him do it, I think, against Shevchenko. He did that a couple of times, and that's where he had success. That fight wasn't the most entertaining of fights, but he didn't have to make it entertaining. Scull. He knew what he had to do. He knew Shevchenko was perhaps limited in his arsenal and was struggling from the get-go to be able to get around Scull and to be able to hit Scull. Scull isn't easy to hit. Obviously, like I say, he circles around really well. He keeps that distance, he maintains that distance, he keeps a lot of shots behind his jab, and it's not easy to get past that jab of his. He also has good looping shots in which he will try and land at times as well. He fights in the centre of the ring and often can keep the fight in the centre of the ring. Obviously, Shishkin is that bit more of a pressure type fighter, perhaps to what Scull is typically used to. I think he's going to really want to push and get in close and try that bit harder than the likes of other opponents in which Scull has faced to get in close. And so it's going to be interesting to see if it will stick around the centre, like I say, fighting around the centre. He makes you fight his fight a lot of the time, Scull. He's got a good jab. He makes you chase him. He's got solid feints, good timing, good work rate, and there's been fights in which he's gotten to the final bow and he looks comfortable. He looks relatively able to just go and do another 12 rounds because he hasn't really let out too much energy. Obviously, he's circling well, moving well, but he's still fighting at a slow pace and picking his shots when he wants to and not overexerting himself. And I also think he's confident. Obviously, as a champion, you kind of have to be confident, and I don't think he's earned that champion status yet, and this fight is going to decide that. But I still think he's got that confident type of mindset about him where he knows what he has to do to be able to win. He knows that game plan can work if he can frustrate you, and I think he enjoys seeing you get frustrated, in which I've seen a lot of fighters who are perhaps more typically defensively minded get enjoyment of frustrating their opponents because they know that they can't really do anything to be able to counteract their defensive movements. And yeah, I think Scull's no different. Negatives about him, I think perhaps if he's fighting on the inside too long, then I just don't think he's comfortable on the inside, and I think that's where he can struggle, and perhaps that's where Shishkin might be able to have success if he can somehow pin Scull down. He's got a bit of a lack of aggression when he does plant his feet. Sometimes it's good if he goes with the singular shots, but if he is trying to unload shots and he does kind of have you hurt, it doesn't seem natural for him to be doing that. He doesn't seem too comfortable. I think his punch variation is limited, his power is limited, he stands quite tall. He's got quite uncomfortable type movements of it at times. Like I say, when he is planting his feet and being the more aggressive fighter, he has kind of uncomfortable head movements where it just doesn't look like he's, like I say, natural coming on the front foot. He doesn't always land clean and doesn't land clean that often, so actually making his opponent respect him can be something in which he may struggle with, and his physicality. I don't think he's got great physicality. I think he can get caught coming in with his shots. He has a low output, a low guard, and I think in general he can sometimes struggle finding openings, like I say, because he is throwing such a little amount and he's got that limited shot selection. I think it is difficult for him to find openings and find gaps. Shishkin as a fighter, I think he's a much more physical type fighter with that superior amount of power. He's not crazily powerful, but like I said, I think he has much more power to that of Scull. And in general, is able to find the angles and work shots better than him when he's on the front foot. He's typically a come forward type fighter, but he can fight on the front foot or the back foot. He can be aggressive even when stepping back on the back foot, and is able to counter him shots himself. He's not a traditional just front foot type fighter. He's got solid accuracy, good body work, lets his hands go, solid punch variation, pulls back well. He can pull back to then throw his shots quite well, or throw a combination, then pull back to be just out of range relatively well. Cuts off the ring relatively convincingly, which is, like I say, going to be interesting to see if he can do that versus Scull. And he's able to go around the guard with his shots quite well, but Scull does have, like I say, a bit of a low guard, so he might be able to get caught with shots. Scull. Negatives about him, obviously, like I said, I think this is a step up in opponent. Like I say, he's fought an interim world champion and a few other half decent names, but nobody too kind of high of the level in which perhaps Skull's faced. And so, I think this is a step up for him. I think his head can be on the line a bit at times. I think he can wait in range. I think he's open to looping shots, and like I say, that's where Scull has a lot of his success, and that's where, if he is going to throw a power shot, that's where the power is going to come from. He's got that slower movement than that of Scull, and if he is trying to get in close and he is trying to close Scull down, perhaps he might struggle just to the lesser superior kind of movement of his. Like I say, he's got quite a low guard a lot of the time as well. He can get caught with straight shots, and if Scull commits to a jab, a lot of the time he will just kind of pit-patter a jab onto your arms and not really kind of fully commit to a jab. But if he does fully commit to them straight shots and jabs of his, then he can find success against Shishkin. I think he can. I think his actual kind of smoothness when he's on the front foot or in close for Shishkin doesn't look too smooth. I think he can. He doesn't fully extend his punches, but then he also doesn't bring them back in for it fully well as well. It looks quite uncomfortable him when he is trying to let his hands go, because he just looks like he's really focusing on each individual shot. It doesn't look smooth, it doesn't look too clean on the eye. Scull, I believe this is a favourite for this fight. I'm not too sure, but I think Scull is the favourite, and I think that Skull's going to win via unanimous decision. I think Shishkin, if he is able to cut off the ring, perhaps might be able to find success at times, but I think Skull's inevitable movement, even if he is able to, if he's able to get out of the corner, and I think he'll be able to, and if he does get put there, I think he'll be able to outmove him and be able to keep him at relatively convincing jab, and I could believe Shishkin might get frustrated if things aren't going his way. And I just think the uncomfortableness of Shishkin, like I say, I think the what I've seen of him aggression wise isn't amazing. So I think Scull, his defensive movements, his circling around the ring, his higher experience, his ability to just keep going, keep moving, stay confident. I think, like in the end, I think Skull's going to win by unanimous decision. Then who he could go on to fight, I mean, I've pretty much mentioned all the names. The top contender in the IBF is Mbili when you look past Scull and Shishkin. So perhaps Mbili is the next big option. Obviously now with Top Rank, that could be the makings for a great fight. If not, like I say, Munguia could be a big option, and they might want to go down that route. I mean, I don't even know if Top Rank's got Munguia yet, or if Munguia's still Golden Boy or not, but I think nonetheless Munguia's probably going to want to still push for that IBF title. Of course, something like a Balanga is still an option, and he might want to stay to claim for a world title shot, and this might be seen as one of the more easier ways to get a world title. Or like I say, you never know, Canelo could be an option, but I think we're going to have to wait a little bit before we see Canelo fight one of these two guys. But that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like it if you didn't, like it, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.